Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. I guess we're up to number 22 or 3. I've sort of lost track, but if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to find all the episodes and you'll figure out where we are. Special for the day is if we curate for you a trip to multiple amusement parks for roller coaster thrills and other things, I will give you $25 off your trip. It must be at least 2 amusement parks, 2 different cities. We can arrange all the accommodations, ticketing, and everything else, but you have to do it through Go Away Often Travel. So speaking of amusement parks and all that goes with it, we have on board today Chris Higgins. He's from the America's Coaster Network. Chris, hello.
Hi there. Good morning or afternoon.
That's right. Or evening, depending on when people listen. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
We have freedom of choice. It's a beautiful thing. So you're here with me to talk about roller coasters. I love roller coasters. I've loved roller coasters ever since I could get on my first one, which was a little baby roller coaster at the Idlewild Amusement Park outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was the first roller coaster I rode. I rode several at the now-defunct White Swan Amusement Park, which is on the west side of Pittsburgh, and then I cut my teeth further at Kennywood Amusement Park. We'll talk about that place in a little bit. Yeah. But I think where we need to start with roller coasters is there are basically 2 families of roller coasters. We have the wood family and we have the steel family.
Right.
Sort of like Family Feud. And so we need to find out what are the basics of these type of roller coasters and what are the differences for people who want to ride them?
See, for me, even though my top roller coaster is a steel roller coaster, which is X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain, I love wooden coasters overall more than steel coasters. The difference being you get a little bit more of a crazy, out of control, I guess I would say almost like more of an organic type of feel to it.
Yeah, I understand.
You feel like you're more part of the coaster, part of the ride. And then obviously the wooden coaster, dates back to the Coney Island Cyclone and all the other great coasters that are not even around anymore. So for me, the wooden coaster has that classic feel, even if it's a new wooden coaster. Whereas a steel coaster, with its smoothness and inversions, or even if it doesn't have inversions, if it's a hyper coaster, it's just a much different feel to it. I would say wooden coaster is probably a good coaster to start off with if you're
small, I'm sure.
If you're small, yeah.
I like the wood coaster because there's a different. It's a matter of feel. I think you feel differently when you're sitting in a wooden roller coaster. First of all, the noise is entirely different on a wood coaster than a steel coaster. Also, the fact that wood coasters often the construction of them have times when you're diving underneath and through, and there's a lot of interweaving of the way the tracks are.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
and I think you're more in the ride versus on the ride. Does that make any sense? I guess it does.
That's kind of like where I was going with it. You actually feel like you're like part of it. Like you're experiencing. It's a completely different experience.
It is good, and I've ridden both, obviously, and I've ridden different versions of the steel coasters, the hyper coasters that don't necessarily invert. My favorite of those being the Fury 325 at Carowinds. I found that to be an exceptional ride, and the view, at least there, when you're at a coaster like that, when you get up toward the top, you actually get some views that make sense because you're just outside of Charlotte, and you can actually, if you look right, you can see the Charlotte skyline, and you can see the different parts of the suburbs, and that's kind of cool. But wooden coasters, I'm still very biased towards a Thunderbolt at Kennywood, with El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey a close second. Those are both excellent rides, and they offer that feeling of, because you get those feelings of air, and you can feel that pull of the G's, and like I say, it's more intimate perhaps. So that's where I stand on these things.
Oh yeah, El Toro, by the way, so good.
El Toro is good, and it's funny. It's one of the few coasters I prefer to ride in the front. I'm a back row rider, and this is it. Actually, I love riding in the front of that.
I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure I rode in the front, but I think we stuck to the back. So I'd have next time I go, I'm gonna have to definitely
Well, my oldest daughter, years ago, we were at the Great Escape park, which is part of the Six Flags family in New York near Lake George, and we were on their Comet, which is a classic coaster that has been around since the 20s. And she came up with words of wisdom. She's about 7, 8 years old. She had just made the height requirement for it, so we took the ride twice because it wasn't crowded. We went once in the front, once in the back, and she had the greatest words of wisdom for roller coaster riders, and that is, well, the best view is in the front, but the best ride is in the back. And she said that it's like 7 or 8 years old, which is like
that's kid, wow for a 6.
Yeah, for a kid, 7 or 8, she says, man, that ride in the back, that was so good,
I don't even. I mean, I know that I was riding roller coasters at that age, but I would have never said anything like that.
When I was 7 or 8, I was just hoping to get to the height requirements. I mean,
right.
The first coaster that I made a height requirement for that was really stunning was the Blue Streak at Cedar Point, which was, back when I was that age, the big coaster there. Of course, it's been dwarfed by so many others. It's almost a joke and an afterthought, but it's still a great ride. So let's talk about some of these amusement parks that have like multiple coasters and multiple experiences, and where you would actually go, and not feel guilty about the pleasure of going and enjoying the rides.
Well, so I'm based in Los Angeles. My home park, the home park I grew up going to, was Magic Mountain, Six Flags Magic Mountain. That's a great park to go to. Was like almost like 20 coasters now, 19 coasters.
They just keep building them up and building them up. I don't know where they find the space,
Right.
Because that's the other thing. Some of these coasters, especially these hyper ones, do take up a lot of space. Maybe not like the Kingda Ka thing at that Great Adventure in New Jersey, but some of them do take up a huge amount of space because of the way they have to design it from an engineering standpoint.
Right. Although it's pretty neat with how they've been able to make like very steep lifts and being able to fit a 300-foot coaster into an area that would have taken up a lot more space under traditional systems that from older coasters. So
now, besides Six Flags Magic Mountain, what other parks in that Southern California area would you recommend for good coaster experience?
Well, unfortunately, on the West Coast, we're somewhat limited. Knott's Berry Farm is another favorite. I think they have of all the parks that I've been to in the country, and I haven't been to all of them. That's a lot.
No one has, I don't think.
but Knott's Berry Farm, I think, has the best roller coasters, shows, dark rides, like overall entertainment. But they still have. I mean, they have like Montezuma's Revenge is an old Schwarzkopf shuttle coaster. Still one of my favorites, even though it's 40 something years old now.
It has aged very well.
And it's one of those coasters that, well, it took me. I think I was like 12 years old, and I was still for 11 years old, and I was afraid to go on it. And I rode it for the first time at 11. But it's one of those coasters that little guys you get kids on. And then you work your way up to Ghost Rider, which is one of the better wooden coasters in the country. And then you have, a Silver Bullet with a nice invert, and get a launch coaster with the accelerator. There's really good variety.
Knott's Berry Farm is good, and then you get good jelly when you leave the park, so you're all set.
Yeah, just get boysenberry everything.
I love that. Trust me. I went once. I went once to the West Coast, and I did go to Knott's Berry Farm. I did go to Disneyland. Mm-hmm. It was only one park. It wasn't two parks.
It was a park and a parking lot.
Yeah, it's a park in the parking lot, and it was $5 to park and $28 to get in. This is 1992 to get to Disneyland. But the thing I liked about Knott's Berry Farm, it was almost, I don't want to say country fair-ish, but it was definitely more. It was less sterile. It was more. Mm-hmm. It was more personable, perhaps, than Disneyland. I'm a Disney guy, and I go every year to Disney World. But I just found that the Knott's Berry Farm thing was just an entirely different thing. It was like going to a big old country or state fair. It really was.
That's a really good. That's actually I've never heard it put in that way before, but that's actually
You're going to use it.
Challenge
You're going to
Park.
use it now. I know that. I can see it in your Instagram post. You'll be finding some old shot of some coaster in Knott's Berry Farm, and you'll use that phrase. It's okay though. It's not copywritten, so we're all good.
Yeah. Although the park since it was acquired by Cedar Fair in '97, that they've.
Yeah, but Cedar Fair does, I think, a pretty authentic job of not really screwing around.
They did
some of the other mega, because Six Flags, they always are like screwing around and trying to redo the formula.
Cedar Fair initially kind of.
They thought about it and they realized they had to back away.
Yeah,
because California is different than Ohio or the Carolinas or other places like that.
Yeah, and their Knott's Berry Farm is that perfect mesh between. It's kind of funny because they're geographically located halfway, not halfway, but they're closer to Disneyland. But they're between Disneyland and Magic Mountain, location-wise. But as far as the type of park they are, they're kind of a good mix of both. You have the roller coasters that you'd find at Magic Mountain, and you have the theming and the family entertainment that you'd find at Disneyland.
Right. Now, if you were to go ahead and say rent an RV for 3 weeks, okay, and let's say you're not going to leave from LA, because we know the Southwest is kind of, I wouldn't say that it's more bereft of good amusement parks for whatever reason, right? It just is. And it's not just because there's earthquakes, because all these rides are now earthquake proof. So it's not just that. It's just this bereft. But say you were leaving from Chicago and you had 3 weeks in an RV. What parks would you hit going, making a loop that begins and ends in Chicago?
Oh, wow. Okay. Actually, this kind of works because my last 2 coaster trips I started in Chicago.
See, I got lucky. I pay attention. I also pay attention to your stuff. So
cool. I don't know. So I would probably go into Chicago. I would get to Six Flags Great America there. Probably loop down, go to Indiana Beach, which thankfully didn't close. Kings Island, let's see, go up to Cedar Point. I would cut, and this is a trip I haven't done yet, but we want to cut across like the Great Lakes. So get over like Canada's Wonderland.
Yes, it's a great park. It's very underrated.
And then keep going all the way over to like New England areas, like Six Flags New England, go to Lake Compounds, loop back around. We got Knoebels, we got Hershey Park. I'd probably swing into New York, get to ride Playland, get to Coney Island. Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, kind of do a big loop, and then and then probably cut through PA. So after and go all the way back out to.
Right, you probably hit Kennywood, and then you hit Holiday World in southern Indiana.
Probably like Kennywood, maybe Kentucky Kingdom, Holiday World, and then loop back up to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. No, those are some great parks. Actually, also my kids cut their teeth at Ride Playland. It's actually still the only amusement park that's governmentally run.
But yeah.
And if you look in the old Tom Hanks film Big, they actually filmed several scenes there.
Yep.
But the Dragon Coaster is another all-time classic. They have a non-roller coaster ride that's really quite cool. It's called the Steeplechase. It's actually a very fast merry-go-round carousel ride that you have to. They have a height requirement because you have to tilt in. I mean, it's actually a very cool ride. It's unlike any other that I've come across of that variety. But I think that's
one of 3 left in the world.
Yeah, I think it's a great ride. And again, you only would need a half a day to knock off Ride Playland. So there you go. Then you can go ahead and hit the other touristy spots in New York City. So
yeah.
Now, most underrated coasters in your mind. What are some of the most underrated coasters that don't get enough love?
That don't get enough love. I kind of feel that anything on the West Coast doesn't get enough love.
Well, I think there is a bias there. It's not unlike the Heisman Trophy bias and the Pac-12 bias and all of that.
It's just you look at where the population of the United States is, so you're going to have more people that are going to East Coast, Midwest parks. I think one that really surprised me, even though I heard good things about it, was the roller coaster at in Vancouver at PNE Playland. That one, like, I wasn't expecting much from it. I heard it had good airtime, but it has like the old the buzz bars. So you just have.
Oh wow! Right.
You have like the huge, like, I mean, I'm talking
Yeah,
like
unless you're a really big person, you're going to be going up when you get the air rather than being throttled in. I understand.
Yeah, so I had my hands up like I normally have them up, and we hit the first airtime, and I don't think I remember doing this since I was a kid. I latched on because even though I know you're not going to fall out, it really feels like you're going to fall out of that ride, and the airtime on that is just incredible. I know it's ranked kind of high, like if you look at like the wooden coaster list, but it doesn't seem like a coaster that a lot of people really talk about.
Well, I think it's probably because of location. You know, if they replicated it and brought it to one of the big parks in the east, you'd probably have a different opinion of it. I mean,
kind of like Phoenix, right? Like that's kind of on the same.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Level.
Yeah, I'd say. So.
I would say, this is okay. Batman the Ride. It's a clone, so a lot of people, I think,
there are like several of the.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Texas has 3 of them, but I think they're one of the better rides out there. They're super.
It's like a comfortable when you're in a ride that you've been on in other parks and they don't really change the formula too much. Mm-hmm. It can be sort of like being in a comfortable old shoe because you sort of know what's going on, even though you're in a different surrounding. Because I've ridden it both in New Jersey, and I've ridden it in Maryland, and I've ridden it in New England. And you're right. I mean, it's just all right. Let's throw up another one because we it's just our park and it's our licensing, so why not? But it's not. It's almost a guilty pleasure because you could again you're same but different.
It's one of the few coasters that actually make my feet tingle like from the G-forces. Like I get off the ride and you can feel it. You can feel the blood rushing to your feet. The other one that does that for me is Flight Deck at California's Great America. Another old B&M invert. And that one, again, doesn't really get talked about very much.
Now, what about the other side? The overrated coasters. Me, it's Kingda Ka. Kingda Ka, to me, is so overrated. You go up, you come down. It's like... And the view from the top, you're just looking at the vast wastelands of New Jersey because you are 45 stories up, but there's nothing there because you're in the middle of nowhere because they geographically built the park so it'd be halfway between Philadelphia and New York, so they could grab both different population centers. But it's just like you go up, you come down. Okay, you go fast, and then you go in, and so and then you come back. To me, it's not. I've gone on it twice. Even my eldest daughter, who's kind of like my roller coaster junkie of my 3 children, says, let's give it a. So it's like that. So what about you? What coasters are on the overrated list?
Gosh, okay, so I get a lot of hate for this, and I don't. This is a major hot take, but Maverick at Cedar Point, and I know that's one of like people's top coasters.
It's usually ranked in the top 3 or 4 at that point.
It's ranked really high. I've really tried to like it. Along with the friends that I've been with too. All of us are just kind of like, yeah, it's a good ride. Like it's not a bad ride at all. It's just we don't. Right.
Well, you don't get it.
We don't get it. Like we see flaws, and we're just like. Yeah, okay.
It's like to me, it's sort of like Grace Vanderwall on America's Got Talent, and she's a local girl. She lives 15 minutes away from me. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. But America loved her. It's the same kind of thing with that kind of roller coaster. I understand.
You have like the over shoulder restraints. You got like a lot of like snappy turns, and then maybe it's just because I'm tall. I don't know.
Well, yeah, when you're 6 foot or more, some of those rides actually do have an issue. Now let's talk about something that really, as a coaster guy, has sort of puzzled me. Why is it that the Florida theme parks in Orlando basically suck for roller coasters?
You think they suck?
Well, I mean, when SeaWorld is the best of the lot with their roller coasters,
Okay.
and with all the other people that go to Universal, and the Mummy is my favorite of all the roller coasters in Universal.
Yeah.
And Disney, you have Expedition Everest, which is a neat concept. I mean, I'm not gonna downplay that, but the rest of the roller coasters at Disney are rather pedestrian. I can get that flavor of the month at any local type theme park or regional theme park to me. So I'm wondering why is it that like I said, the SeaWorld roller coasters, Manta and a couple of others are really quite good, but it's like, why is it that those parks just don't want to compete in the roller coaster realm?
Are you talking like specifically Orlando? I mean, you go to
Orlando, because obviously you have millions upon millions of people going there each year, and obviously when coaster enthusiasts go there, it's the same kind of lukewarm feeling. They all go to Tampa to Busch Gardens,
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I haven't been to Orlando since 2003, so it's been a long time. But Kraken, I loved. I think that's.
Oh, Kraken's a good coaster, and again, like I say, there's several good ones there. But
as far as Disney goes, Disney's going to be Disney. They're always going to be kind of,
pedestrian and saccharine, and then more on the theme than on the actual being in the ride, I guess.
Yeah. But and then I guess you have Orlando, and Hulk is overrated. But it's fun.
It's fun, and then the rock and roller coaster thing is fun. It's a much better ride at night. There's no doubt about it.
Although I'm looking forward to seeing how the Velocicoaster is going to.
Well, and I'm looking to see that one, and I'm looking to ride on the Haggards. I've heard very good things about that, but I haven't been down since they've opened that.
Yeah, no, it looks good. I mean, I'm kind of bummed that Dueling Dragons got removed for it, because that was a really fun ride as well.
Yeah, well, they're always constantly evolving and constantly changing, and that's obviously their right. So I guess now your favorite single park to go to outside of California is
Cedar Point.
Yeah,
it's a common answer, but it's one of those things
you can't.
I didn't get there until I got into the whole coaster community stuff like 99, 2000. So right, like when Millennium Force was being built and opened, and since then I had always wanted to go. I just never had the chance. And I went for my first time in 2016, and I felt like a kid in a candy store. Like you're driving up.
Oh yeah, you're going in, you see, and all you see is all the structure,
and it's like it was amazing. And then we went this last year, I guess now, because it's 2021. We went for Cedar Point's last operating day. We hadn't been on Steel Vengeance yet because it wasn't open in 2016. And it was freezing cold. Like we had like little snow flurries coming down.
Nice.
It was windy, so everything was closed. I think they eventually opened Corkscrew and Wicked Twister. But we spent like 5 hours waiting in line for Steel Vengeance, which never opened, and then left. But something is so magical about Cedar Point that we left like still with a smile on our face. Like we're at Cedar Point. It's I think one of the only parks that I've been to that I could probably go to and not ride anything and still be like, oh yeah, that was kind of, it's just a really neat.
Sure, as far as that kind of park goes. Yeah, I myself, because of my upbringing and that I grew up near Pittsburgh, I'm really partial to Kennywood.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have some great coasters there. They have the Thunderbolt, they have the old Rabbit, and a lot of those coasters are so old they're actually on the historical register, so they can't do nothing with them.
Yeah.
And they even have the new Steel Curtain one that's Pittsburgh Steeler themed, and when you get off the ride, you actually go into a Pittsburgh Steeler gift shop, which I find hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I need to get back there.
Yeah, and like I say, there are a lot of great trips, especially from the Northeast. You know, we mentioned the Chicago Loop. From New York, you can loop up and hit those couple parks in New England you mentioned. Go up to the Great Escape. You know, hang out at Saratoga, bet on the ponies, come back, shoot down, get to ride Playland, Great Adventure. Then you can shoot out west to hit, Knoebels, hit Kennywood, hit Idlewild, go out to Cedar Point and Kings Island, and you've covered a lot of great parks and very little mileage, ultimately.
And not just that, and like when we go on our trips, we obviously want to hit the theme parks, but we love seeing the major cities and different.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, you get to see Chicago, you get to see New York. I guess you can go to Toronto too.
Sure, and and you get all the other authentic experiences. You can find the good food. You can find other non-amusement park places to go to. So you can make a whole trip of it, and even for the non-amusement park loving people out there, you can always sneak in the museum or something else, get a little culture, and make it a complete trip so that everyone's happy in the end.
Yeah, get your New York pizza, get your Chicago pizza.
That's it. You can try a lot of. There's a lot of good food that's locally available in those places. Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I need you to plug all the spots you are on social media so people can find you.
Oh, so we're mainly on Instagram, America's Coaster Network. We're going to be launching a YouTube here pretty soon. So if you go to America's Coaster Network on Instagram, you can find our links to everything. You can search for us on Facebook. We're also there. And that's kind of Twitter as well. So if you search America's Coaster Network on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Well, there you go. That sort of covers the main players. And I think for what you do, I think Instagram becomes a very good platform to share with. If there were fuller length videos, obviously maybe Facebook would be better, and Twitter if you wanted to just sort of throw something out there quickly, that 280 character limit thing, there you go. But this has been great. I could talk roller coasters all day. I can talk about the history of roller coasters. I can talk about good ones, bad ones, the in between ones, and I really enjoy it, and I really want to thank you for hopping on board with me today on the Walter's Wanderings Travel Podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Sure. And just to remember to all the folks out there watching or listening, if you have me curate a multi-stop amusement park tour, I'll make sure you get $25 off so you can enjoy some cotton candy at the midway or try and win one of those $25 dolls that's 6 inches tall and all of that. Chris obviously has played those games and has lost just like me. All right. Well, listen, thanks so much, Chris. I really appreciate it. More content on the YouTube channel for the Walter's Wandering Travel Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.